Hello folks, and welcome to another episode of the Bootcast with Irish Bootstrapper. I'm your host Eugene, and this is Series 4 Episode 2, Hiiker with Eoin Hamilton. Hiiker is a new app all about long distance hiking trails where you can find thousands of the best backpacking and hiking adventures, along with photos, reviews and great places to stay. So I'm delighted to have Eoin on the show to talk about his own life, his ups and downs, how he overcomes challenges, and to talk about some of the features and benefits of the app itself. So without further ado folks, please welcome Eoin Hamilton to the Bootcast. So hello Eoin, and thanks for coming on the Bootcast. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks, Eugene, and thanks for having me on. My name's Eoin Hamilton, and I'm Head of Marketing and Community and Director with Hiiker. It's a mobile hiking app and a platform and a website that you can use to plan out your entire journey across thousands of hiking trails across the planet. Yeah, I suppose I'm a hiker. I'm an outdoors person by trade, and I dabble in a few different things. Yeah.
Just the last couple of days, you were away on a hike in Ireland. So can you tell us a bit about?
Yeah, so myself and a couple of buddies, we went to the Sleeve Mountains in the Midlands. As it kind of crosses the border between Laois and into Offaly and back over to Laois again. So it's a loop trail. It's about 70 kilometres, although we decided to add on an extra about 20 kilometres onto the trail because there was a section down the bottom that we wanted to see. So we did it over 3 days, did it with my friends Mel of Gals Gone Wild, and we also had Irish trail runner and ultra runner Conor O'Keefe that came along with us as well. Yeah, it was an absolutely fantastic journey. I just got back last night. My legs are still really, really stiff and my shins are sore and I can't stop eating food, but it was definitely a journey that I'm going to remember for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many great places in Ireland, and maybe with the lockdown, a lot of people are starting to realise that there's fascinating landscapes and hikes and mountains and beaches to go to that are on our doorstep.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually that was, with the Sleeve Mountains, I don't think I've been there since I was a young kid. I think my parents probably brought me there at a very early age, maybe. Like I do remember hearing them say that we had gone there before, but I just have no memory of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's spectacular. Like the trail itself, I'd say about 90% of it is on actual trail. It's off road. It's rugged. There's no roads. There's a few road sections that are there, but it's spectacular. And it's also a nature reserve, and the Sleeve Mountains is actually Ireland's largest nature reserve. So you're seeing wildlife, you're seeing flora and fauna that you wouldn't see anywhere else in the country. And just the bird song all day long. It's like you're 100 miles from civilization. You're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But when we were up there, just finishing off the trail, I met a couple that were considering to set up a house, like an Airbnb, for people to come and stay when they come to see the Sleeve Mountains. And I thought, they were like, oh, will we do it, won't we do it? And I was like, well, considering I just did this trail and I was absolutely blown away by it, absolutely do it. And I'll be your first guest.
Class. That's brilliant. The podcast is all about people overcoming challenges, and maybe you're throwing a curveball in life and you have to kind of grab it and run with it and deal with it and overcome it. What would be your kind of favorite story to tell in that kind of a...
I suppose life is full of multiple curveballs for everybody. I suppose some people will have one particular thing that they go with, and I suppose for me the biggest curveball was I had a child at a very early age. I was 21 when my daughter Caitlin came along. Best thing that's ever happened to me, but at an early age it was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to support this child and try and have this life of adventure that I always planned that I was going to have? So I suppose my 20s was kind of hanging around, nearly coasting through life, just trying to make sure that I was responsible, but and not kind of looking after myself in a way. And that kind of all came to a head when I suppose I entered into a relationship with somebody, and it was all going very well, and I think the way that I was living my life just didn't marry with her outlook on things, and the way that she wanted her life to go, and it just ended, and it really cut me deep. And it was more so the fact that I had realized that I had been doing this to myself for so long. I hadn't been looking after myself. I hadn't been healthy. I hadn't been, doing the things that I wanted to do. There was nothing stopping me from doing that. Sure, I couldn't go off for 6 months, a year to travel the world, but you can still go and do, be adventurous and live that adventurous spirit. So it all came to a head when that happened, and then ever since then I've been just trying to do as much as I can within the time that I have to fulfill that need, to fulfill that want.
What did you learn from being a dad at such a young age? Like,
I learned how to. Well, I was going to say I learned how to tie plaits and to change nappies, but I was actually doing that even earlier. I had, well, I wasn't tying plaits, but I was changing nappies. My nephew was born when I was about, I think I was about 17 or 18, so I was helping my sister out with that. I suppose at an early age, it taught me how to be responsible, and to look at things much more rationally, and to realize there's a bigger picture here. But it also did distract me from certain things, like I said, like looking after myself, and doing those things that I wanted to do. And it's not something I resent. It's of course, it was a big learner for me to kind of park those things and go, no, you need to do this for now, and you can do that whenever you want. You can do that in a couple of years. You can go off and do those adventures, and I did. It took a bit of heartache. It took, long spells of depression. It took, long times of really, really questioning, where I was in life to get there. Yeah. But I got there, and I'm still learning. I'm still going through that. But being a dad, it definitely gave me perspective over the bigger things in life, and that there's more important things than your job. There's more important things than your social media. There's more important things than that. Like the silly laughs at tiny little jokes that I make with Caitlin. That just makes it all worth it.
What would be your biggest physical challenge in life?
So actually, recently enough, I haven't really done a huge amount of like extreme endeavors. I remember I decided to do a half marathon years ago in Dingle, and I was training for it, and I was but I decided to do it about 2 weeks before the race actually started. Yeah. And I hadn't run before. I'd done like maybe a 5K. So I was like, okay, I need to start training for this. And I was running every single day, trying to get up the kilometers, get up the miles, build up the strength in the legs. And when the day came, I ran about 10 kilometers at a fairly decent pace. And then my ITB band on the side of your leg, it just completely blew out. And I ended up having to hobble the rest of the way. It was not pleasant, especially when you were doing so well, and then the people that you were running with started running past you, and there's people 3 times your age running past you. I've done, I suppose, some big enough hikes. Like I did the Glencoe Loop there a few weeks back, and that's the 6 of the 12 bends in Galway, out in Connemara, and it's a tough hike. I did that with Melissa from Gals Gone Wild, and it was great fun, but it definitely put some manners on you. I've got plans to do bigger things. I definitely want to do, so I'm planning to run my first trail marathon, which is the Dublin Mountains Way. I think it's a 42 kilometer trail,
Nice.
Gonna try run that at the end of October. Currently training for that. I'm planning on doing a 100-mile race. Now that probably won't be until next year when an actual 100-mile race exists.
Yeah.
Um, but as you can imagine, spending 3 days out in the wild with Conor O'Keefe, ultra running extraordinaire, the man who was the only person to finish the Enduro Man 200-mile race last year, I think it was. You know, spending a bit of time gets you a bit inspired to do these things, and based off my track record so far in terms of running, I think it's something that is I don't want to say possible, but I'll say plausible.
You'll do it. You'll do it.
Yeah,
Um,
it's within the realms of possibility.
just in terms of like international travel, have you done many international trips or any hikes out far? And
The kind of the poster hike for me was always Yosemite. Getting into Yosemite Park and hiking around there. So I got the chance to do that last year. So I think it covered um, about 30 miles of hiking around Yosemite. So I did various different trails, wild camping, got to go up Half Dome, did a section of the John Muir Trail as well, the JMT, and then it got to climb up the back of El Capitan. I'm also a climber. I'm not a big wall climber by any means, but
yeah,
it was always a kind of a dream to see El Capitan in person and
class.
get to do that. So that was definitely a big one for me. I got to do also last year. Got to do the South Downs Way over in the UK with my daughter.
Nice.
Um, so she was 10 at the time,
Yeah.
and we walked. And then we also did it with Paul, my business partner and friend, and his now fiance. And we walked from Eastbourne over to Winchester. It took us about 5 days, I believe. Which was it was fun. The South Downs Way is not again, it's not a particularly challenging hike, but it was perfect for what we were looking to do, which is just have a nice hike through the country, in the middle of summer with a 10-year-old girl and let her kind of enjoy it
Yeah.
as much as a child is going to enjoy 100 miles
Yeah.
of walking.
Trying something new like that, or even aiming to do like 100-mile race, or climbing a mountain, or doing your first rock climb. Sometimes people can be hesitant and they're kind of self-doubting themselves. So what would your top tip be to somebody on the fence about trying something new, whether it's something physical, something, or a mental challenge, or starting a business, or
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely have been quite hesitant with a lot of things in life, and as I said to you before, my 20s was that I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this, and I think it's a bit cliche, but like, just do it. Just try it.
yeah,
Honestly, like there's some things, like there's obviously more extreme things than hiking. There's far more extreme things than hiking. There's far more extreme things than yeah, going for a run.
mm,
But you know, give it a go within your means. Anybody can do anything if you put your mind to it. Again, this all sounds really, really cliche,
yeah, it
but
was true.
it is totally true. And like as I said, I spent my entire 20s just kind of standing on the sidelines going, I don't know if I can do that. No, I don't think
Mm,
I have the ability to do that. But then I went
yeah,
and did my first long distance hike. That was absolutely fine. I
yeah,
did my first 20-kilometer run. That was absolutely fine. I can do that. I'm tired.
yeah,
I'm wrecked, but I can do these things. And the more you do of them, the more you try, the more success you're going to have. Um, yeah, that's it. Again, I don't have any pinpoint words of wisdom, but just
no,
give
but
it a
that's
go.
but that's that's the thing. I mean, a lot of people say that, and it kind of is a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true.
Yeah,
That, like, if you overthink something, you'll never actually do it. You have to actually
Yeah,
just take the first little step, then the next step, and then you realize that you're actually doing it.
yeah, and actually, this is a really popular thing within the hiking community, or within hiking, is that hiking is getting very popular at the moment, and so is trail running, kind of
Yeah.
anything kind of to do with getting outdoors, where you have the ability to be on your own.
Mm.
So with in hiking, there's this. Some people can call it toxic, attitude around gear, or even ability. Is that, if I don't have the right boots, I don't have the right trousers, runners, jacket, bag, I don't have the right bag for that. I can't do that. It's like,
Yeah,
no, you just
yeah,
need a bag. You know, yeah, if you want to spend the money and get a really, really super comfortable bag that has fancy pockets, by all means go for it. But like, you can go out with a school bag and do a hike.
yeah.
You can go out
That's
with a,
yeah.
a bottle of water in your pocket. Just throw in a pair of trainers, throw in a pair of tracksuit bottoms,
Yeah,
get out,
it's
go for a
true.
hike. That's it.
And like Stephen Murphy was saying yesterday, well, two important points he made was that, like, he only told his family and friends that he was doing this 3,000 kilometer cycle, like, literally a few days beforehand, in order for
Yeah.
nobody to kind of talk him out of it, or to doubt him, or to put any worry in his head. And another thing, he was talking about the gear as well. So these cycling enthusiasts were asking him, like, oh, what kind of sprocket have you got? What kind of pedals? All these kind of technical questions. And he didn't have a clue, because it didn't really matter to him. He was going to do the cycle anyway, and he knew that the bike was good enough, and that's all he needed to know. He wasn't going to complicate it with the minutiae of it.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I'd nearly leave the words of wisdom to Stephen, because geez, that he really did. When I met him the last day, he just kept giving me these goosebumps, for
Yeah,
just what he was saying. He I don't want to butcher his story, but he was telling me, about his life of, just, never really having the thing, something to kind of hang his coat on.
yeah,
Um, and that, again, he used less cliche words, but he kind of was saying the same things. Just go and do it.
yeah,
You'll never know until you try.
yeah.
You'll never ever know until you try. And I remember, actually, on the finishing line, myself and Mel and Connor we were heading off, said our goodbyes to Stephen, and we were heading off back up to our cars, actually, to go directly off and do the Sleeve Boom Way. And we couldn't get a better send off than his mother and father coming up to us afterwards and thanking us for coming down and supporting him, because it really kind of showed the result of him just going out and doing it, just saying, no, I'm going to go and do this thing. And then all of a sudden, he attracts these people from all four corners of the country, just coming over to him and going, this is class, well done, you deserve this,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then we get the same feedback back from that. So it just filled our hearts with joy. We're like, yep, okay, we're just off to climb a mountain, thanks.
Yeah, yeah. That was amazing, and fair play to you all for going down. Would you have a favorite book or favorite author?
I yeah, we were looking at this before, and like, I'm not a big reader. I will say I'm not a big reader, but one writer, he's more of a scientist and an astronomer, is Carl Sagan, and his book The Cosmos, I think I've read a few times. Just it's more poetry than it is scientific. Like, there's obviously science in there too, but the way he writes, it just every single word, every page, you can feel the passion coming out of his words. And then when you hear him speak as well, it just, yeah, it's mesmerizing. um
Class. I must check that out. Cosmos.
Cosmos, yeah.
And favorite quote.
It's from the man himself again. It's from Carl Sagan. I do a lot of work in environmental
Yeah.
protection, so I'm involved with a few different organizations, and I give presentations every now and again on climate change and climate action.
Cool.
And you can always relate this quote to environmental action, to hiking, to the outdoors, everything, because
Yeah.
it's all part of the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want me to read it out.
Yeah, read it out if you have it handy or if you know it off the
Yeah.
top of your head.
Well, I know parts of it, but I'll just read it out of the screen.
Yeah.
I happen to have it here in front of me. It's only part of it. I recommend anyone who's listened to this to and you haven't heard it is to go onto YouTube and just search Carl Sagan, the pale blue dot, and I think it's like a 4 or 5 minute video, but it's a 4 or 5 minute speech. And the context of it is that they sent a satellite out into deep space, and the signal was about to be lost, and they were passing Saturn, and they decided to turn the camera back around to take a photo. And when they took a photo, they noticed they were able to see Earth, and Earth was a tiny, tiny little speck of like it was a blue pixel basically, shining in a sunbeam, and from that, then he came up with this. But this is only a part of it. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
Nice.
There you go.
Brilliant. And it puts everything in perspective again, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It does. Yeah. Yeah.
Could be two people that inspire you.
So you're actually catching me at a very funny time because there's so many people that are inspiring me right now. And we've been talking about a few of them, like Conor O'Keefe. You know, I've only met the chap, and you know he's inspired me to go and do a 100-mile race. You know, there's so many people around me. Mel as well, really good friend of mine. She's really, really flying the flag for the outdoors, but also for the women in the outdoors, because she's just such a strong person, such a strong woman, and you know she kind of shows there's no difference, there's no gender divide, and we all should be able to enjoy the outdoors as much as one another. And she's a great friend and everything to boot. There's, you know, Paul, my colleague. You know, he's kind of he went and taught himself how to code, and he went and got a master's and an MBA and everything, and he's a fantastic human being. He's a really good and old friend of mine. But I suppose the one person that kind of inspires me more than anybody is my daughter Caitlin. Caitlin was born and lives with autism. She's on the autistic spectrum, and she's had so many challenges in life. But she has just been able to fob everything off and live this wonderful life of joy and inquisitiveness, and she just finds everything fascinating. And now she's turning into a bit of a diva now these days. She's a bit of a tween at the moment. She's discovered TikTok and social media and makeup and all that kind of stuff. But I suppose that comes with the job.
Yeah.
But like there was moments of her life where she didn't speak to anyone except for me and her mother and our close family. Everybody else she would not speak to. But she overcame that, and now she's very independent. And as I said, she walked 100 miles across England last year. Yeah.
Well done. And then just finally, before we wrap it up, Hiiker app. So can you go into what the app is actually about and some of the key benefits and features and how people can maybe download it or reach out to you guys?
Sure. So the app is free to download on iOS and Android platforms. There's also a website, hiiker.app. And just to be clear, it's Hiiker with 2 I's, Hiiker. So the app and the website are designed to allow people to find waymarked trails all around the world. So these will be trails like in Ireland, you have the Wicklow Way, the Schliebloom Way that we just did, the Kerry Way, the Dingle Way, the Western Way. There's in Ireland, I think we have about 46 trails and growing. There's plenty of them in Ireland. And then we have them all around the world. So in the UK, Europe, Southern Hemisphere as well, Australia, New Zealand, Tasmania, North America. I think in North America alone, we have about 650 trails, and that would include the likes of the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, the Pacific Northwest Trail, and you know, many, many more. Within the app, you will be able to see the full trail. You'll also be able to plan out your itinerary, so you'll be able to see where you're going to start. You can plan where you're going to camp, or if you're going to stay in a hotel or a hostel or a B&B. You can also plan out where you're going to stop for food, to resupply. So on the longer hikes, you would need to stop in a town to pick up a resupply box, or you might need to go into a shop or a pharmacy. Public transport is another big thing as well, because not everybody drives, so you might need to be able to use a bus or a train or taxi or whatever to get there. All of these things you're able to find in it. And it also serves as a kind of a tracking app as well. So you are a dot on a line on a map, GPS, so you can see exactly where you are. So the free version is, you can use everything to a point, but if you want to download it and use it offline, and that's where you kind of want to use it, because if you're out on a trail, you don't want to be relying on internet connection to know where you are. So if you download that offline, it doesn't drain your battery. You can use your phone on airplane mode the entire time, and you can see exactly where you're going to be stopping the entire way. So one thing as well, I suppose it's important to note that people shouldn't rely on these apps as their navigation.
Yeah.
Paper map, compass, you should be kind of falling back to, because at the end of the day, it's technology, and you want to make sure you're safe out in the trail. We actually provide print maps as well, so you can plan out a section of the hike, and you can save those sections and then go, and there's an option then to print those maps, and they print out in PDF maps.
That's handy.
Yeah, just to get that extra layer of safety. So yeah, it's there's a lot to it. We kind of cater for people that are going out for the longer distance trails, so people that are going out for trails that are 20 kilometers plus.
Yeah,
usually ones that you're going to end up camping on or staying over on. But there are some trails there, obviously, anything that's below 30 kilometers, people can generally do in a day.
Brilliant. And that's the Hiiker app. Just your own Instagram handle then, Eoin?
My own Instagram handle, so it's Yosemite, as in the park, _ham. Yosemite Ham. It comes from Yosemite Sam, if you do remember your Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Eoin Hamilton, thanks a million for coming on the Bootcast. Best of luck with everything and with the Hiiker app, and mind yourself. Hopefully we'll meet someday.
Eugene, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem. Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Hope you enjoyed that episode of the Bootcast, folks, with Eoin Hamilton of the Hiiker app. Make sure to check out the app, Hiiker, Hiiker, and give Eoin a follow on Instagram as well, Yosemite Ham on Instagram. If you did enjoy this episode, would really appreciate if you could leave a review or rating wherever you listen to your podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, or any of the other podcast places. Would really appreciate that. And don't be afraid to send it on to a friend or family who might like to hear it or listen to it, especially now during lockdown. Might give them some inspiration or some tips or advice to help them in their own life. So once again, thanks a million for listening and following the Bootcast. And remember, become the journey.